Welcome on into a brand new episode of the Scots Sports Show. I am your host, Tyler Trumbauer. To start things off, we're joined by the man of them all as far as the athletic department, Director of Athletics here at Edinboro University, Bruce Baumgartner. Joined us off to start the show off on the right foot. Bruce joining us today as normally we start off our shows we have in the entire fall semester talking Boro football with head coach Scott Browning, and he was on our last episode 2 weeks ago before our Thanksgiving break, and he talked and wrapped up the season. And just a few days later, a coaching change was made as Coach Browning ends his tenure as an Edinboro Fighting Scots. So talk about that and more. That is why Bruce is here on the Scots Sports Show. So, Bruce, we'll just start right out with it. Coach Browning finishing up the first, one of the first few winless seasons Edinboro football has ever had, and he was here talking about things, and he was talking about the offseason. He was talking about 2016, and a few days later, the word comes out from you guys that you're making a coaching change. So what was kind of your thought process there?
Well, it was a very difficult thought process. Coach Browning served Edinboro University very, very well for 30 years, had some of our more successful seasons ever under his leadership or while he was here as a coach. It comes a time where I just felt that it was time to make a change. Look at a new beginnings, regain, what we had in the past as far as tradition goes. And a very tough decision, very tough decision when you're making a decision like that, but one that we felt was the right decision. And we wish Coach Browning the best and want to move forward and provide the best opportunity for our student athletes in the future.
Certainly. And was there were you thinking about this throughout the season? How was that? Were you monitoring this, or was there something that maybe you had a meeting with your colleagues maybe at the end of the year? How did that kind of go about?
I mean, I think there was discussions for quite some time over the season. Last year, we did not have as successful a season we had hoped. I thought there were some things that we had already made some adjustments and corrections, and then it just didn't seem to take hold. And it was just felt with, when you look at all the indicators and Edinboro football, that it was time to with the fresh new beginnings with a new coaching staff or a new coach.
Certainly. So Coach Browning here for 30 years, 10 as a head coach, a lot as an assistant coach, as you said, served the university very, very
Extremely well
in a lot of those capacities. I mean, just the Browning's nature, every single time Boro's been in the NCAA playoffs, Browning was a part of that team. So looking at his coaching staff, who, if we would go over to Macomb Fieldhouse right now, is still putting, the foot down on the pedal and is still working for Boro football, and what is their status?
Well, right now, everybody on our staff is still working for Edinboro football. I mean, we have, I can't really talk about employment things. We are out, what I can say, Tyler, is we are out searching and looking for the best coach to lead football in the future. We hope to have that person. We're going through the HR process, so there are some confidentiality issues on who have applied and who hasn't applied. We have a committee put together to go through and sort out and determine, through the interview process, hopefully by the start of classes. That's our goal, is to have everything in place by the start of classes. So when our student athletes come back, they know who their head coach is. We have not really eliminated, or we don't have what you would call a typical short list like the Division I institutions have. When they let somebody go, they already have 2 or 3 people they know are interested. We have a lot of interest, that I can say. We have a lot of interest from many different candidates. I've gotten 50 to 100 emails. I know the application pool is pretty big and pretty robust. So, we're looking to make a good decision. We're looking to, get that person on board and move us forward, before the student athletes come back, football players come back in January.
Who is the type of coach that you want to bring in to lead Boro football back to where you want it to be? I know you said you wanted to get back to the old traditions of Boro football, but kind of maybe get a little bit fresher look. Maybe is that a younger look? Is there maybe a profile, if you will, that you're kind of trying to see as your next football coach?
It's very interesting that you asked that question. I have had a lot of alumni, boosters, friends, football experts, old football coaches all tell me what Edinboro needs. and what I can definitely tell you, there's no consensus some people say it needs to be a certain, it needs to be that, it needs to be young, need to be experienced. So what we have charged the committee to do is look at all the different attributes of Edinboro football, our history, current, where we're going as an institution. I've sat down with them, and we'll do it again, and we'll discuss this. Then look at the candidate pool and see who is available, who is interested in us, that meets most of the things that we feel will help us be successful. Because there may be, some people say, well, you got to hire somebody who knows the PSAC. Well, there may be a coach that knows the PSAC outside the PSAC that's great in all the other things, and just because they're not in the PSAC, so
right.
I don't want to pigeonhole us into one, we need this, because if we can't find that, we want to get and look at what's available. And I don't know whether they're going to Skype, 5, 10, whatever, 20 people, but they're going to be charged, or they are charged with finding the coaches with the most attributes. There's probably no perfect coach, the most attributes that will help us be successful in the future.
Certainly, and one thing, and maybe this is just more opinion by you, is you said, I know the day you made the announcement, you said you already had 5 or 6 emails in your inbox. Now you're saying up to 50 and 100, and there's also the application you can fill out online on the university's website. Why do you feel this is such an attractive spot? I mean, you're looking at 4 losing seasons, and then you're looking at a winless season, and a lot of turnover, not a lot of seniors. But why do you feel there's almost 100 people that want to be the next pro football coach?
Well, Tyler, that's a very interesting point, because I'll be honest with you, when a lot of people said this is a very appealing position, and I'm a type of person that, you kind of get shown by statistics. And I was a little concerned that with our last 4 years that we would have minimal interest. We have some very, very good candidates interested, and candidates that know the PSAC and candidates that know Edinboro University's history, both recent and past. So I'm very encouraged. I think this is looked at as a very good job. We're approaching it such, and I do think we're going to have if the committee does their job, I do my job, the athletic department staff does their job, we're going to have a very good candidate to recommend to Dr. Sablo and ultimately the president to approve. And you did mention all applicants have to go online to the website and officially apply. Whether they send me or anyone else a resume doesn't really matter. I mean, we look at them, we review them and so forth, but the application process, everything has to go through the HR website online.
Right, absolutely. So you said before the timeline is to have the coach in place by the start of the spring semester. Why that timeline? Why so quickly do you want to have that quick turnaround? Why do you feel that's so important to have for the players of that program?
Well, 2 things. First, there's no benefit to leave it drag on. The longer we don't have a head coach in place, the harder our recruiting is going to be, the less relationships we're going to have with our the high school and junior college, maybe even the transfer students. But our student athletes really, when they get back, there's preseason conditioning, there's spring football. The new coach is going to have to reach out to, obviously, the alumni and supporters, going to have to develop the relationships with their student athletes, going to have to develop a staff. I mean, there's a lot to get done in a short period of time. So we're ready to go for spring football. And then, more importantly, we put together a successful plan and a successful staff to be ready to go, for our athletes in September, early August, obviously, when training camp comes in, and they get a good experience. I mean, we think we have a lot of great young men on the team, and we hope they stay eligible and give us a shot. But if they decide they don't like the new coach, then we want to also give them an opportunity to, possibly look elsewhere. So I think time is important. It can't drag on to end of February. Like I said, when it compares to the Division I's, they may let guy go on Saturday, and usually by the next Saturday they got the person in place, and they're already wearing their new T-shirts and shirts,
right.
and, at practice. So we're not at that pace. We are going to follow the hiring process and really do our due diligence to select, we hope, another good coach.
So last note, and kind of piggybacking after your answer there is you said the middle of January, right before the spring semester, is kind of where you'd like to get that person in place. But if there's an applicant that is, and you guys are following through the process, could it potentially be, we could have this done by, say, before the end of 2016, or are you guys going to be like, you know what, we're gonna do our due diligence, make sure everything's good, but is there a chance it could get done earlier?
We're going to shoot to do it earlier. I mean, to get through 100 applicants,
it's
to
do
it right, it's going to take some time.
Right.
So it's not like, they're going to sit down at 10 o'clock or 1 o'clock this afternoon and then be done going through the applicants by 2. I mean, that's going to take some time, and then there's going to have to do some vetting out. We're going to have to do some interviews on campus because we want this coach to know exactly what Edinboro has to offer. We have some good facilities. We have some benefits, and we have some drawbacks. This coach coming in needs to know that so they can be prepared to help us overcome our obstacles, use our advantages to the best of our ability, and put together a successful team. They're going to have to recruit, retain, get the academics. There's a lot of things to being a coach, more than just what they see Saturday, afternoon or evening when you're doing the video of it and putting it on TV.
Right.
That's the easy part of coaching. It's that 40, 50, 60 hours that week that goes into the game. And this coach is going to have to be getting after it pretty quick.
Certainly. So getting off of the gridiron, getting away from the football vacancy position there, talking about some more positivity with Make-A-Wish. We had that come out a few weeks ago. Haven't had you on the show since, so taking this opportunity to talk about that now is Edinboro tops in Division II. I know we were near that last academic or 2 academic years ago, and of course that's initiative by you and the athletic department. The comm department's been in on it. The student athlete advisory committee's been in on that. So how happy are you that there is no other school that's raised more money for Make-A-Wish than Edinboro University in Division II?
Right. Last year in 2014-15, we were the tops, and it's great to have the label of being the best at something, and the label's fine. But more importantly, I just, thanking the comm department, the health and physical education department, our student government association, our student athletes and coaches to make that happen. It's not about being number one, and it's easy. It's hard for an athletic director to say you always want to be number one. You always want to be the best. You want to win the most. But more importantly, the money we raise is helping those children, the Make-A-Wish children, become, most of them are either severely, ill or maybe even terminally ill, giving them a great wish, a great memory. That's what it's all about. It's about teaching our student athletes, our general community, our university, giving back. And we hope to do another reveal again this year in the spring semester, and seeing those individuals, that get that trip to Hawaii last year and Bella, and it was great. I mean, there wasn't a person in the stands that was not touched by that, and we had 2,000 plus people. That is more important than saying we're number one. And again, I like being number one,
right.
Don't get me wrong, but and it was a collective effort. It was our Student Athlete Advisory Council, our coaches, athletic administration, and our student athletes. Again, we mentioned the comm department, health and physical education, student government. Just a lot of people coming together for a good cause. And we're on pace to do another good year this year. I don't know if we'll break last year's amount, but we really want to stay above that reveal level so that we can always have a reveal, bring it to the community. And one thing people really need to know is that the money we raise come right back to our regional Make-A-Wish group. So it helps people in our region, not California and New York. Not that they don't need it also, but
right.
The money we raise in our region stays in our region.
Yeah, the greater Pennsylvania, West Virginia,
right.
Make-A-Wish area region
Correct.
They have there. So one thing is kind of interesting is Edinboro, sure, yeah, we can commit as an athletic department to saying we want to do this, but you need the community. You need the student
right.
body who are coming in every athletic event. There are student athletes going around asking for donations for Make-A-Wish. And they could walk around and no one can put anything in the bucket,
right.
but it's the community and students that are attending these events and contributing.
And that's why, to me, it's a great thing, because it's just not our athletes or athletic department. We collect as little as $6 or $7 in one event, and we can collect maybe on a homecoming close to $1,000. So it's wide variety, and the athletic department does way more than Make-A-Wish. We do a food drive, we do a Toys for Tot drive, we do cancer awareness, and so our student athletes, our students on our campus are just phenomenal people for the most part, trying to give back and make a difference in people's lives. And that's what things like Make-A-Wish, Toys for Tots, food drives, the cancer awareness and the cancer research funds. And it will not collect for Make-A-Wish in a couple of weeks and do the Toys for Tots so that we can, help disadvantaged, youngsters in the area that may not be getting holiday presents. So I can't be more proud of our, athletic department, the university student athletes, our coaches, because they really do make a difference in people's lives.
That they certainly do. The student athletes of Edinboro excelling in the classroom, on the fields, the courts, the like, and of course, giving back to the community that gives them the support on the fields. Right. And in the classroom as well. Bruce, we appreciate the time, as always, to talk about a few happenings right here on campus and in the athletic department.
Thank you, Tyler.
Appreciate that. And the Scots Sports Show continues along after this with another segment. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the Scots Sports Show. Jumping onto the mats now with the Edinboro wrestling team, joined by head coach Tim Flynn. Coach, we talked to you last after the season preview. We were looking ahead. You talked about the young guys upcoming. You talked a little bit about the injuries in the room and trying to, just replicate the best season in Edinboro history after the third place finish at Nationals. Now you've had some time. You've opened up the EWL play. You've been to Michigan, been to California. You've got a lot done here in about a month, Coach. So what are your thoughts on this first 5-6 weeks of the season for Boro Wrestling?
I think we're developing well. Some of the young guys have really stepped up and done a nice job. I mean, we have a lineup full of freshmen, and, that doesn't always have to be a negative thing. They're enthusiastic, they want to get after it, and they want to get better.
Certainly one of those freshmen is certainly a standout, Pat Lugo at 149 pounds, and he just has yet to lose as a fighting Scot, stepping right into the starting lineup. You kind of talked about him last time you were on this show. What has he done? Are you surprised by his start? What did you see from him in these first few matches?
I'm not surprised at all. I mean, he's a hard-working kid, and he's a tough kid, and you have work ethic behind, desire like that. I think you're going to have success.
Certainly. So looking at the other parts of the lineup, what have you seen? Maybe some surprises, good or bad, or what have you seen from the other weight classes for your fighting Scots?
Well, I think, the bookends, the 25 and heavyweight are redshirt freshmen, Sean Russell and Billy Miller, they've done a really nice job. They're as good as we thought they were, and I think they can be, obviously much better and down the road compete for a national championship. So those two guys have really done a nice job, and some of the other guys stepping in, just the 57-pounder no one really knew about, Spencer Nagy's done a nice job helping us out.
Right. So now we talked last time about the NWCA Classic and Vic Avery potentially playing in that or competing in that, and then he had to pull out with an injury. Still hasn't made his debut. When can we see Vic potentially back out there and dazzling under those bright lights?
I'm hoping a few weeks. He's getting better. I don't think we'll see him this week or this weekend, but maybe in a couple weeks here we'll see Vic back.
Certainly, and then just other to note, Austin Matthews, you said hopefully in 2016, and when we get a new calendar, we'll get Austin Matthews back as well as a package deal. So looking ahead immediately this Saturday, the PSAC Championships, real quick trek this year, just up to Mercyhurst. You guys are, 5-time defending champs, something like that as a team, but last year, 9 of the 10 individual champs had Edinboro singlets on. How do you duplicate that this year?
Well, I think the kids have to compete hard, and some of them are going to have to wrestle above their level. As we've said, we have some younger kids, but that doesn't mean they can't win. If we can, get them a little bit better and get them in the right frame of mind, I think they'll have success Saturday.
I know you always focus in on March, of course, with that hosting EWLs and NCAAs, but these are championships. I mean, this is the conference. How much stock do you put in to the PSAC Championships?
You know, it's important to us. It's important to the school. It's important for the kids to get their name on, up on the wall in the wrestling room as a PSAC champion. It's always something that we circle, on our calendar, to try to, get up for. But we'll be ready to go Saturday.
Certainly before that, you're going to get a little sneak peek of some people you might face at the PSAC Championships with the Bloomsburg Huskies coming into Macomb, opening up the home schedule for this season, 7 o'clock Thursday night. What in that meet, what do you make of Bloomsburg and what do you see in that match as you finally get to compete in front of the home crowd?
Well, Bloomsburg has a little bit younger team like we do, so, I don't know their lineup really well. I do know it's our first home duel, and that's really important to us, to our kids. So, we're going to come out, looking to, perform at our best.
Certainly, when the bagpipe's going to start playing and they start running out, it's go time in Macomb Fieldhouse. Long-term outlook for a second coach. We talked about Bloom on Thursday night, PSAC's on Saturday, but long-term, there's a lot of wrestling yet to be done. A young team, you've had a solid start considering the injuries and the younger guys in the lineup. What is the outlook of the long-term for this team in the upcoming weeks with what is ahead for the Scots?
I think the outlook's good. These kids are getting valuable mat time. Whether we get DeLandy back at 57 and then Austin Matthews and we get Vic back and these other guys getting time on the mats, I think it's just going to strengthen our team. And I think we're going to be pretty good, come the middle of January.
There you go. Boro wrestling, pretty good now. And they don't even have a lot of their guys left. So the Scots are just starting. They haven't peaked quite yet. Of course, it all comes down to what month, Coach?
March.
There you go. We're not even at that yet. That's head coach Tim Flynn. We'll continue wrestling talk after this as we'll be joined by Pat Jennings here on the Scots Sports Show to talk about the PSAC Championships and his thoughts on this season right after this. Welcome back to the show. We're continuing wrestling talk now with the PSAC Championships just days away up in Erie at Mercyhurst University. To continue that talk now, I'm joined by a member of the Edinboro wrestling team, Pat Jennings, here on the Scots Sports Show. Pat, appreciate the time today. So let's start off by looking in the rearview mirror first. Beginning portion of the season, you've had a couple of dual meets, just opened up EWL play with a win against Clarion last week. Looking at it overall, going at the Eastern Michigan duels in the beginning, including last week, what are your thoughts on this early part of the season?
I think it was a pretty good start, but I think there's stuff that we all have to do a little better. Flynn always talks about like kind of narrowing your focus has been his main thing lately, and just walking in the room one step at a time, every little thing, just to keep getting better. I mean, it was a pretty good start. There's obviously stuff everybody has to work on to get to where they want to be, but not a bad start so far.
Certainly. What about for yourself individually? I know you were a little upset with how things ended last year for yourself at the end of that season. So how did that fuel your offseason? How do you feel you've done over that offseason and now going into the first month or so of this season?
Yeah, like you said, I kind of had a letdown at the EWLs last year. So, my main focus this offseason was just to keep training as hard as I could, but really making sure it was smart in the areas that I needed. So, if I got there again, things went the right way and I know where I should be. The start of the season, it's been tough. I had a couple of, highly ranked guys, but, you have to take each match one step at a time, look at it, learn from it, analyze it, and then move on to the next one and just keep building and, work for your goal at the end of the season. March is what really matters, they say.
Right, certainly. So now in part of this team this year is a lot of younger guys, especially with the injuries that are plaguing the lineup right now. A lot of true freshmen getting an opportunity. One of them that's certainly taken advantage of it at 149 pounds, Pat Lugo from Florida, undefeated thus far in his Edinboro career. What are your thoughts on him and how is he in the room day in and day out?
He's really tough. He gets after it hard every day. He knows what it takes to win already, I guess. He gets to work out with Mitchell Port, so he gets real good feel. And, he gets after it. I like the way he wrestles. He's intense. He's focused. He's a great athlete, great kid.
And like you said, competing against Mitchell, who's now an assistant coach, is certainly going to give you a one-up on a lot of people in the in the country. So now looking forward, the PSAC Championships this Saturday at the Mercyhurst Athletic Center in Erie. Going to get that underway. What are your thoughts on the PSACs? You guys are I think I looked this up, five-time defending champions. It's been a while since Edinboro hasn't hoisted the team trophy in the conference. And last year, you guys had a record 9 out of the 10 individual champions. Yeah. How do you duplicate that or even better that?
I think it's staying focused. I think us older guys, there's not many of us, like you said, in the lineup because a couple of us are hurt, but me and Fuller, Vince Pickett, we have to make sure that we have our guys stay focused, have a leading role, and attack that, not like say, we've won it 4 or 5 times in a row or whatever, we have to go into it saying, we don't technically have the same lineup we did last year or the year before that. So we got to go in focused and come in hard and look to win it again. Certainly. Can't look back in the future, the past.
Right, and certainly a lot of those younger guys, that'll be a good mindset for them because they don't know. Really, they weren't part of those years that where you guys are winning it year in and year out. Well, I hope that continues again this Saturday, Pat, and I appreciate the few minutes today on the show. And good luck on Saturday and the rest of the year.
Thank you.
The Scots Sports Show continues along after this, as we'll do a season preview with the indoor track and field team. A few ladies from that team will be joining me on the show next. Don't go anywhere. The indoor track and field team will get things underway this week with a home event at the Mike S. Zafrowski Sports and Recreation Dome. So to preview that season now, I'm joined by 2 members of the indoor track and field team as we work our way around here on the stage. To my immediate right, we have Kasey Jones, an experienced returner here on the Scots Sports Show, as well as on the track, and another experienced returner, Elizabeth Narkevic, here on the Scots Sports Show. Ladies, thank you for joining me. Kasey, we'll start off with you. So for the track season, it's indoor, but it's the only time you get to be home. No outdoor home events. So I know I kind of ask you this question every year, but how is it to just be home, to be able to sleep in your own bed the night before an event and just be able to actually have the friendly confines of an Edinboro building?
It's definitely nice. We have the, home field advantage, as they say. We know how our track works. We understand, how the air is in the dome, because as we all know, the dome's a little weird with the air and everything. And, we get the practice with where the starts of each race are and everything, so it takes away some of that anxiety on race day, as well as, jumping day,
Right, and how important is it to start off the season at home, too, especially with maybe some younger athletes? They can ease in by just having to go from maybe the Highlands to the Dome instead of having to get on a bus, sleep in a hotel the night before, etc.
Exactly. It's really nice for especially the newcomers, because they've practiced on the indoor track all fall, and so now they'll get to start on our indoor track and kind of ease into the whole college experience of college track,
right,
as well as for the returners, because it's kind of just nice to have that home field feel,
Right. Elizabeth, for you, how has this off season been, training in the Dome and elsewhere on campus, preparing for this season? How do you feel individually your training's been?
I think it's been good. We've been training pretty much all year. We start training in the summer, we go through the fall season, and it's nice to finally be close to starting our indoor season. And it was also nice since we've had a pretty mild, end of fall, beginning of winter, that we were able to stay outside for a lot longer than usual.
Certainly, that's definitely a storyline that's going to be underplayed. Last year all we did was talk about the snow. Now we're not really talking about the lack of it and how that's helping you ladies with your training this season. Kasey's training, talked about Elizabeth, was her off season. Your off season a little bit different. You're never really off season the way you were before as a 3-sport athlete with the cross country, indoor and outdoor. No cross country for you though this season. Out of eligibility. The NCAA said no more, Kasey. You can't do that anymore. So how was that different? Not being able to go straight from cross country to indoor, and did you see that as a positive or a negative?
Oh, I didn't really try to overthink it, because I knew that if I thought about it too much, I would somehow make it a negative.
Right.
But as long as you keep training through that fall season and through the summer, I think it'll be fine. You know, when you've been racing for 10 years, you know,
Right.
3 months is not going to make that big of a difference as far as racing. You know, everyone on the cross country and track teams, you know, they've been doing this for so long. You go out there, you know what you have to do. So
Certainly, Elizabeth, Coach Carlson not able to be with us today. Very busy, of course, with not just having the season start, but having a home meet in the upcoming days. So kind of taking her role, what's been her message to the ladies, especially those that are competing here in the first week, as we get closer and closer to the season being right here underway?
I think her message has been what it's been, you know, my past 3 years. You know, train hard, do your best on race day, and you'll see the results. That if you put in the effort, that's what you're going to get out.
Certainly, simple message from Coach Carlson. You know, it's not something you need to overanalyze too much. Kasey, as someone that's experienced just like Elizabeth, seeing the different waves of recruits coming on in, what is this team going to look like this season with returners and newcomers coming into the Dome this season?
I think it's, you know, we have a really positive outlook right now. You know, we had a decent amount of people graduate last year, but we also have a very talented freshman class coming in. So I don't think there's going to be much of a change as far as, you know, our results. But the people that have been on the team for a while have been really good this year about, you know, picking up those freshmen or even just, you know, walk-ons that weren't on the team last year and, you know, this is the way to go and this is how you do it. And Coach Ann's really good about easing people into it. So I think it's going to be a good season.
It's going to be a good season, hopefully for the ladies and for the team overall, as things will get underway this weekend at the Mike Kowal multi-event at Mike S. Zaffarowski Sports and Recreation Dome right here on campus before they start going all across the country. That's a good thing about cross country and track. They really do go across the country. That's Elizabeth. That's Kasey. Thanks for the time today, ladies, and good luck this week and the rest of the season.
Thank you.
Scots Sports Show continues along after the next break as we'll check in with the men's basketball team who's getting ready to go across the state to have a crossover between the Eastern and Western Division. We'll check in with them right after this. The jam-packed Scots Sports Show, the final one of the fall semester, continues along now as we hit the hardwood with the Edinboro men's basketball team, joined by two representatives of that program. To my immediate right, member, player extraordinaire, Henri Wade-Chatman, guard for the Edinboro men's basketball team, and to the far side, head coach Pat Cleary, joining me today on the show. Guys, we appreciate the time. Coach, we'll start off with you. You've had, what now, 4 games to start off this season, a couple in the conference, one non-conference game as well. But we'll go back to day one, that regular season PSAC and home opener, Slippery Rock. Of course, the team that you lost to 3 times last year, ousted you in the playoffs. I'm sorry, I got to bring that up. Yeah. Ousted you in the playoffs. How happy were you to earn that victory against SRU to start off the season?
I was ecstatic. You know, I thought our guys showed a lot of growth during the game. At the beginning of the game, we kind of had some jitters. The first time under the lights, you know, this season, everybody going out trying to show what they can do. And, you know, when we settled down, I thought we played pretty well in the second half, and we were able to go out and get the win. And, you know, while we did lose to them last year, it was more about starting this year off on the right foot and making sure we position ourselves in the PSAC.
Certainly, Buka, for the player perspective, and I know Coach was amped to get to that SRU game. What was it talking in the locker room heading up against that SRU team? Because they, like I said, they beat you in the playoffs, and now you had all off season, and you knew they were going to be that first team that opening night.
It was more like a revenge game. Like we worked all summer. That was the first game that we wanted to play, and it just so happened to be the first game on the schedule.
Right, and it's perfect. You didn't have to wait to get to SRU a few weeks later. You just got them right away. Now you can get that kind of off your chest. Does it feel a little bit better to just be like, we kind of did our work, now we can get into the rest of the PSAC?
A little
Something
bit.
Like that?
We still got to see them again.
Right. But at least you got that one win this time, so there's not the goose egg in the win column when it comes to SRU this season. Coach, for the other games, you had hosted a crossover, Kutztown, and you had Mansfield coming on in against the Golden Bears, another close loss to them. What did you make of that matchup against KU? I think maybe a team that I think on paper some people maybe underestimated a little bit. I was a little surprised by the way Kutztown came in. What are your thoughts on them?
I wasn't surprised. I knew they were very good. You know, I just thought maybe we had a little bit of a hangover coming off the SRU game. I thought that maybe some of the guys put a little too much value on the Slippery Rock win and not enough on the preparation for Kutztown, and it came back to bite us a little bit. But I was proud with how we responded against Mansfield the very next day. You know, they got a new system, a new coach, and they're way better than their record has indicated. So we were able to, within 24 hours, regroup and go out and play a better game. I thought that showed some growth for our guys.
Certainly, Mansfield did fight tough in that Sunday matchup, but you got the win. But one other note from the Kutztown game, despite the loss, Jamin Mason, career-high 39 points for him. What do you make of his play thus far? Obviously, a preseason all-PSAC team member coming off being freshman of the year. You knew what you got in him, but now in his second year, it doesn't look like he's having a sophomore slump, if you will.
No, and I think one of the things that helps us, I mean, with Jamin and with Buka, they are two guys that can control a game by themselves. So anytime you have that and you have the other one able to play off of the other guy, I just think it gives us some valuable weapons when we go out there and play. And I thought Jamin was terrific, you know, so far this season, as has Buka. So we've been able to use them kind of as a two-headed monster.
Certainly one member of the two-headed monster, Buka. How is it playing with Jamin? I know we talked about this at Media Day, and we've heard from that right here on the show. But what's that like to be able, you know, because in that Kutztown game, you weren't, you know, you weren't shooting lights out. You weren't having your best game. But what's it like to have a teammate like Jamin to pick you up and have a career day to maybe help the team when you aren't at your best on that given day?
It makes it so much easier to where you don't have to force nothing to score, knowing that he could go for 40 at any night, anytime he probably want to. So it make life easier for me.
Right. Is that like an everyday thing? Even if you feel you are playing at your best, it still kind of takes some stress off of you that you don't need to really, you know, put a team on your back late in the game. You have other players, even more than just Jamin, to help you out.
Yeah.
Certainly it does. So, Coach, but then the one tough loss, Lake Erie College, on that Tuesday before you're going into Thanksgiving. I'm sure you weren't thankful for the way that game turned out against Lake Erie College with the loss in the non-conference. What do you make of that game? I mean, obviously, just looking at statistics, it looked like Lake Erie College had just about 5 Jamin Masons on the floor. They didn't miss a single shot.
Yeah, they were hot, and you know we picked a bad time to play our worst game of the year, and they played, you know, their best game of the year. And, you know, I'm not taking away anything from them. I thought they were terrific. We knew that they were a shooting team when they came in. We knew we had to run guys off the three-point line, and we just didn't do a good job of it. We had some turnovers at times that really cost us when we were making our runs back in it. And, you know, I just thought that, you know, maybe the third game in 4 days kind of showed a little bit of fatigue on our part. And, you know, I just hope that we were able to learn from it.
Certainly. Now you had a little bit break, few days away from the hardwood for the holiday, the family, the like. So, Henri, now going into the crossover upcoming, you have a couple of games ahead, some good PSAC winnable games. What's the mindset of the players right now trying to build off that solid start you guys had to the season?
Oh, this week we got back into the basics of our defensive principles. So it's more about paying attention to detail on defense.
Certainly, Coach. So you got back to those principles on defense. What is going to be the key for the Scots now that they're going to get deeper and deeper here into the PSAC schedule before you know it? What are going to be the keys to make sure that you have more games like you had against SRU and less like you did against, say, Kutztown or Lake Erie College?
I think attention to detail for us is huge. Our league is so tough, and now we got 3 PSAC games, Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, and we got to travel across the state in the meantime. So it's a brutal stretch for us. So attention to detail is massive. I mean, we can't control what the other team does, but as long as we can all be on board and know what we're doing on our end, it gives us a leg up because of who our personnel is. So we need to make sure that we are valuing each and every possession, and we just don't fall into lulls where we kind of sleepwalk through things. I mean, we need everybody tuned in on every possession.
Edinboro men's basketball going to cross their T's and dot their I's as they head across the state to face East Stroudsburg and Westchester before Damon College of New York next week, and then a little break before they get right back into the thick of things of the PSAC West. Coach Buka, we appreciate the time and good luck in the upcoming days.
Thank you. Appreciate
Thank you.
it.
The Scots Sports Show will wrap things up as we take a look at the athletes of the week and the schedule ahead right after this. Congratulations to Michelle Yan and Art Cook of the women's basketball team and the men's basketball team for being named this week's female and male Scots of the Week for Edinboro University. Yan, younger sister of Lindsay, who's also on the women's basketball team, was also named the PSAC West Women's Basketball Freshman of the Week for the second straight week, as the Edinboro native is second in the PSAC, first on the team in three-point percentage so far this season. Jan had 20 points and 15 points in the Scots' 2 games over the weekend at the IUP Lotus Star Classic. Cook, who just transferred into Boro, is having his first year as a Fighting Scot on the hardwood, fell just short of a double-double in the Scots' loss to Lake Erie College back on November 24th, as he had 8 points and 7 rebounds for the Fighting Scots off the bench. Now, let's take a look at what is upcoming for Edinboro student athletes. Things getting busy on Thursday. Normally we start on Friday, but too much happening on Thursday to neglect that day. Swimming at their biggest meet of the year outside of PSACs and Nationals at the Worcester Invitational. That is for 3 days here in the first week of December. The indoor track team gets things underway at the Mike Kowal Multi, also right in the Mike S. Zaffarowski Sports and Recreation Dome over these upcoming days. Of course, on Thursday, the wrestling team gets its home slate underway as well, welcoming Bloomsburg at 7 o'clock to Macomb Fieldhouse. Also on Thursday at Wheeling Jesuit, the women's volleyball team starts the NCAA tournament as the 4th seed against the 5th seed, Clarion, down at Wheeling Jesuit at 7 o'clock. And then on Friday, the men's and women's basketball teams are on the road for a crossover between the East and the West, facing East Stroudsburg on Friday night against the Warriors. Go out and try to support Edinboro student athletes this weekend. And that's all we have for the Scots Sports Show today, this semester, and for me as well. Thank you all for tuning in to the Scots Sports Show and supporting it since its inception here at Edinboro University on Edinboro Television, as well as GoFightingScots.com. I, as a host, truly appreciate that and appreciate all the time and effort that the coaches, officials, administrators, and student athletes here at Edinboro have given me, given the show, and really giving their sport, their craft that they do here at Boro so much time. I appreciate that and the opportunity to host this show, reviving a studio sports talk show for Edinboro University. I hope to see the Scots Sports Show continue along into next semester, where hopefully it will return in January. But that's all for us here in the fall semester. Be sure to stay tuned to GoFightingScots.com to stay up to date on all of the latest Edinboro University athletic happenings over the winter break, as they do happen with basketball, wrestling, indoor track, and other winter sports. And we'll talk to you guys, hopefully, here on the Scots Sports Show in January.